What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Mark and Matt Show. I am going solo today. It's Matt here. Mark is out working, I guess, if he wants to call it that. Today, guys, I'm going to go through and do a quick SmackDown recap with you for August the 8th, 2018. I want to be able to take a little bit of time and just go through all of the matches and what's going on and how things are looking and getting set up for SummerSlam. We're actually 10 days away from SummerSlam. I'm getting pretty excited. Let's get right into how SmackDown Live turned out. Felt like it was kind of a placeholder for the go home, which is going to be next week and then lead into SummerSlam. It moved some storylines along. It did its job, but nothing too overwhelming really stood out for this week. But there's a few key spots that I do want to talk about, and we'll go through the whole show. But the point here, guys, is that as we go through the SmackDown Live recap together, I really don't want to go through line for line of exactly what happened, what was said. You guys watch the show, but I'll give you kind of a quick synopsis of all the matches and what we saw and some of the standout moments and where we kind of think things are going to go. Remember, I want you guys to be able to join us and be able to leave your comments and your feedback and your questions. If you want to go through Twitter and hit us up there, and you go through twitter.com and search for the Mark and Matt Show, we'd be happy to take your questions and comments and feedback and let us know. We want to get your stuff on the air so we can actually post some questions and get some good Q&A going. You guys can also look at us on YouTube under the Mark and Matt Show, and we are there, and we've got all of our episodes posted through our YouTube channel, as well as you can find us on iTunes and through Podbean and all your podcast services around the world. So let's get started. We kick things off with Randy Orton coming out. Now, I am so happy that we've finally got a Randy Orton heel turn. It's been too long where we've been dealing with dull, the babyface Randy Orton who does nothing and just comes in and goes very slow and methodical and RKOs somebody and he's out. And his feud with Nakamura wasn't really anything to go home with. Before that, when we were looking at Bray Wyatt, we know what happened with Bray Wyatt feud. That was giant mess, but we did get a house burnt down, which is always fun. Well, with Randy Orton finally turning heel, setting his eyes on Jeff Hardy as his kind of first victim, first opponent, I'm really into all of this. I like what they're doing with Orton. It's refreshing to see him be a heel again, and they're putting a little bit of a twist and everything on his entire heel turn, at least in my opinion. It's not just the standard, I feel disrespected, so I'm going to take everybody on. I feel like they're trying to do a few things a little bit differently when it comes to Orton's heel turn. Yeah, he's coming out and he's talking about how he feels disrespected by the WWE Universe, and he's going after all of their superheroes like Jeff Hardy. But I feel like there's a few more wrinkles that they're going to try to explore. He's doing things like not giving fans the RKO. He sets it up at the end of the promos now where he says the three most dangerous letters are RK, and then the crowd is still going along with him, but he doesn't say oh. He just drops the mic and walks out. So I feel like he's pulling away from not giving the fans what they want. The crowd still pops when they get his music coming out. They're still cheering for him a little bit. It felt like it was 50-50 on SmackDown this week, but I think it's going to be good. I think it will help Randy go through the entire year all the way to Mania in this heel role and see who he kind of goes after over the course of the year. But I think Jeff Hardy is a perfect opponent for the first round with Orton. Jeff is just a pure babyface. The crowd loves him. No one is ever going to boo Jeff Hardy. So I think it's really good in this case that you got Orton fighting against him. Orton comes out, basically goes through and runs down Jeff again. And he is talking about how he erased the enigma from last week and he'll erase everyone they love from the universe. Again, I think it's doing a good job of setting Orton up as this big evil heel who doesn't care and feels disrespected, and he's going to keep going off and he's going to destroy Jeff Hardy piece by piece, and it's on. I'm really digging it. I'm really into his motivations, his heel turn here. I think it was a good way to kick off the show. What I don't get, and this happens later on in the show, is with Nakamura's kind of involvement with it. I don't really get where he fits in, because he was there and he was fighting Hardy and he won the U.S. title from Hardy, and because Orton got involved, I don't really get where Nakamura is falling into all of this. It feels like Jeff should be the U.S. champ, and Orton is going after not only Jeff Hardy to take him out, but then get the US title. It feels like Nakamura is kind of just off to the side as the US champ. It feels a little clunky that way. I like the story between Jeff and Orton. I love the beatdown that he did when he's pulling his ear out, and it looked terrible. It's super aggressive and it's great, but I don't really get where Nakamura is fitting into all of this. And they're probably going to go with a triple threat. They haven't announced it yet, and I wonder if they're just not sure what they want to do with it. But you got to figure it's going and it is leading to a triple threat at SummerSlam between Nakamura, Jeff, and Randy Orton. But we'll talk about our predictions next week when I'm on the show with Mark, and we'll go and do our full breakdown of what we think is going to happen for SummerSlam. Overall, though, I love how Randy Orton is coming out and being just a super heel, and he's not giving the crowd anything to work with, and he's erased the enigma of Jeff Hardy. This is obviously going to pull for Jeff Hardy to come out next week and probably get into taking out Orton, but I don't know. My early prediction is that whether it's a triple threat or a one-on-one with Jeff and Randy, I think Randy needs to go over as the heel. I think he needs to actually take out Jeff, and Jeff spends the next even few months trying to overcome Randy Orton and get the win on him. But I think Orton needs a little bit more momentum. If you have Jeff win over Randy now, I think it kind of destroys his momentum at this point. But Randy Orton goes off talking about, he's a 13-time champ, he was a legend killer, the Viper, and so on, and his whole career, and he was the youngest guy in the locker room when he was starting off. Now he's the veteran, and he feels disrespected by everyone, including Jeff, the locker room, the crowd, and so on. I think it was great. Up next, we've got Charlotte and Becky versus Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. Now, I like the Iconics from NXT. I was a big fan of what they were doing. I loved all their backstage skits, everything on their iPhone promos. They're really great chemistry. It really, for me, though, it hasn't clicked when they've come up to main roster. I think they fit well on SmackDown. I think it's a good spot for them, but it's not working. Something's not working. The crowd is chanting boring at them, and that's really too bad. I chalk it up to just how they're being positioned. I don't think it's them. They need more time in the ring. I think they need more experience overall, but I would probably go back for Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. I'd do more of those backstage segments and not have them come out and run a promo as soon as they come out to the ring to face their opponents, because the crowd is not into it. And it's not even that the segments they're doing when they're coming out are really long. Like, they're 30 seconds where they run down Charlotte and Becky in this case. But it's not clicking. I think they need to just go back to the backstage stuff, and they need to get a little bit more time in the ring, because they're a little clunky, and there's a bit of a clunky match between all of them. The match is set up so that Charlotte and Becky are going to be in that triple threat for the women's championship. So obviously we got to get the two of them in a tag match and kind of stir things up as we do later in the show. But they're aligned for this match. Charlotte gets a roll up for a 2 count later on in the match. There's a hot tag to Becky, runs all over Royce, hits the exploder, flying forearm, gets the 2 count in there as well. And then eventually Charlotte gets tagged in, hits the moonsault onto the Iconics. Then there's a figure 8 that was put on Peyton Royce, and Charlotte and Becky pick up the win. And it was around 5-6 minutes for the entire match. It was a little clunky, but overall, I think it got the job done for what they needed. I really don't know yet who I'm probably going to go with for the SummerSlam match. If you guys check us out on Twitter, but I'm a bit of a Becky fan. I think it's time for her to get the title. We'll see what happens. I don't think Charlotte should have the title at this point. It doesn't really make much sense. She just came back from surgery, so obviously Charlotte could win the title, but I'm going all in on Becky right now. I think that she's had win after win after win every single week. They're trying to build her up for that story, so it would be kind of a good moment to have Becky win the title, and maybe you're going to do something where you have, I don't know, Charlotte screw her over, or Charlotte turns heel, which would be pretty good, and then you can have the two of them fighting throughout the rest of the summer into the fall, which I'd be pretty into if they went that direction, but we'll kind of see what's going to happen, won't we? We got Renee Young is interviewing New Day in the back, And I was killing myself laughing because I knew it was going to be good whenever you got New Day in the back doing an interview. But as soon as they started, you see Kofi in the background behind Renee Young coming out. And then they're about to interview Big E and Xavier Woods. And then they stop and Kofi's got blue jacket on with a red bow tie and then the blonde hair, and he's going to be an interviewer. For a split second, I don't know why, but maybe I was half paying attention at the time and I didn't really clue in. At first, I thought he was going to do a Trump skit because I saw the blonde wig and I just went, oh no, what's he going to do? And then I saw the bow tie and then I was like, okay, let's see where he's going to go with this. But he dresses up as an 80s interview and interviews Woods and Big E on their win tonight. Kofi is hilarious, and I don't know if he gets enough credit, but I love Kofi Kingston doing this. They could do this bit every single week and it will have me laughing every single time. But anyways, they talk in the back about who's going to win. They're going into the main event tonight against The Bar to get number one contender shot against Bludgeon Brothers. We've got Charlotte and Becky, and they're happy about their win over the Iconics. But there's a little bit of tension and there's a little bit of heat there when they realize that, okay, they got to go after each other when they actually get to SummerSlam. And it'll be a totally different story when they fight in Triple Threat. But it was good. I think it was good. I think the only problem is that the camera lingers a little bit too long. And this is the same issue we have with pretty much Raw and SmackDown and everything, is they do these backstage segments. They're quick, they're to the point. Becky and Charlotte in this case do a really good job of getting it over in the tension and the realization that they are going to have to fight each other and put their friendship aside. But then, and they do the little tea thing, and they lock their hands together. But the camera just stays on them way too long and lingers, and then it gets to that awkward moment. And they need to cut away faster after they're done talking. It just always drives me nuts. But anyways, I think it was a good segment to have. It was quick, it was to the point, but it's really going to be interesting to see what direction they go in when they fight at SummerSlam. Next, we have what was probably my highlight of the entire show, and most times on SmackDown, is AJ Styles comes out to the ring and cuts a promo on Samoa Joe. I love AJ Styles as WWE champion. I think they could just keep the belt on him forever and people would be happy with it because AJ is phenomenal, and the feud with Joe is, I think, perfect. I wish they had more time to build it. Mark and I think, touched on this last week, but we were saying how we wish it was built a little bit stronger in the beginning and not just that Joe was designated as the number one contender for AJ's title. I wish they did. I'm a fan of tournaments. I wish they did some sort of tournament, a fatal 4-way, 6-pack challenge like they always like to do, or 5-pack challenge or whatever. I wish there was something where they had Joe built up a little bit more, because before this, he was fighting R-Truth. He was fighting Ty Dillinger in like quick little squash matches. There was nothing really there. Joe was off for a while too, so I wish they just had a little bit more build getting to this point. I think they're doing everything they can. I think it's great. Like, I'm still totally on board. I just wish that there was a little bit more meat to it, and we had like maybe an extra month of build leading to this, or that we saw that it was going to go in this direction, that we were going to get a Joe AJ feud, instead of just announcing that this is going to be the match for SummerSlam and then letting the story come out. But the guys are the best there is. Joe is the best talker. I love listening to Joe on the mic. I feel like he's just like a perfect movie villain all the time, the way he speaks. And going against AJ is a perfect opponent. They had so much history in TNA. They've had history in the Indies. They know how to work with each other. It's going to be my match of the night for SummerSlam, I think. And this promo did a really good job. So last week, Joe gets on the mic and starts running down AJ and running down his family, and that he's not a good dad and not a good family man and so on. This led to AJ coming out this week. And this is probably the height of the feud, because we have one more week to go with the go home, which we're probably going to get some sort of pull apart and something for next week. But Styles was able to get his words in, his voice in for this match, and to really talk down Joe. He talks up the fact that he is a father. He's on the road 200 days a year, 200 plus days a year. He doesn't get to celebrate the anniversaries and the birthdays, and he misses stuff with the kids. the thing is, like, with AJ, is that it all comes across as very sincere and very relatable. He's like Daniel Bryan in that way for me. He always comes across as real and genuine, and I think that's why a lot of the crowd, I mean, aside from his talent in the ring, I think that's why he does so well too, is that people can just relate to AJ. And I love this promo. He had me sitting there thinking about it because I'm a dad too, and I'm like, yeah, this, like, he's on the road all the time. He doesn't get to be home. He's got to suck it up and be a man and take on his responsibilities. And he's cut to Joe in the back, who's laughing at AJ a little bit and chuckling. He's got a pretty big black eye there as well that they didn't touch on, but see what that was about. Maybe it was on a house show tour. AJ talks about how Joe threw away a decade of friendship and he brought his family into it, and now the match is on and ready to go at SummerSlam. AJ gets a huge pop, obviously, from the crowd. They're huge in AJ Styles, so am I. I think it was a really good promo from Styles, and I think it was the appropriate response coming back from Joe's promo from last week. It gets him really good, a good heat, gets him really fired up, and I think it's getting the audience and getting the crowd really into the match leading into SummerSlam. So I'm hopeful that next week we get something really good. The problem that I have, and I said this with Mark, is I just wish that this was the main event. They don't let the WWE Championship, they don't let AJ Styles be the main event of any pay-per-view. Last month when we had, what was it, Extreme Rules? When we had Dolph and Seth main event. I get that. I mean, it's Seth. He's on fire. He's as hot right now as AJ. It's for the IC title. The IC title is huge. I understand at the time Rusev was number one contender versus AJ, and there wasn't a lot of build there. It felt like kind of just a rushed one-off match, something to put together. So I get that it wasn't the main event, but you could put Joe and AJ on main event of WrestleMania, and it would just steal the show. If they just put a little bit more time into this and really focus down on it, I mean, I think that would be the best way to go, but I get it. They've got Brock on Raw, and Brock's going to be main event of whatever Brock is doing. But I'm hopeful. I'm excited. I want to see what's going to happen. My early prediction, I don't think, wait till next week when we actually get the go home segment between AJ and Joe. I can see Joe winning. Joe hasn't won a title yet. He's had a couple of title shots. He's gone in with Brock in a pretty good match. I think they could do it where Joe wins the title. Make him big, huge monster heel. Take that title from AJ. Have AJ chase it for 3 months or to the rest of the year. It's good to have AJ chase a little bit. And if he drops the title, I mean, I think the perfect person to drop it to is Joe, and let Joe just go on a rampage for the next few months, even leading into Survivor Series and possibly even the Royal Rumble. But I can also see them keeping it on AJ. If they did that, though, I don't know what you do with Joe, because if you just have AJ win clean over Joe at SummerSlam, it doesn't really do anything for Joe, and people are still happy that AJ wins. So you just kind of, I feel like if Joe doesn't win, then you're just rolling off into the next opponent, unless Joe somehow wins, for another. Next up, we got Rusev, Lana, Aiden English in the back. They're all realigned. Rusev meets with Lana. They apologize, wishing her good luck for her match, and it's Lana Day. Aiden English arrives. He apologizes as well, and then Rusev asks Aiden English to stay in the back for tonight's match. Then we got Lana versus Zelina Vega, and Rusev and Andrade Cien Almas are at ringside for this match, and I love Andrade Cien Almas. I hope he can get off. I wish he was going to do a feud with Bryan or something, but I think getting him in the mix with Rusev and Aiden English, I think it's a good spot for him right now. We still got to build to him. And Zelina Vega, we're getting her in the ring. I don't recall, you guys tell me, but I don't remember Zelina Vega doing any real matches in NXT. I followed NXT pretty closely and regularly. I just know her as always the valet for Almas. But anyways, we got Lana versus Zelina Vega, 1-on-1. It was all right. It's continuing the drama for the whole feud. Zelina Vega beat Lana in like 3 minutes with a pin. Lana got a head kick in, heads up to the top, but then Aiden English arrives and knocks Almas into her. And then Vega follows up with the double knees and picks up another win. So it was okay. They're pushing the story along for the breakup between Aiden English and Rusev and Lana in the mix. I don't want them to break up. I know other people feel the same way. I think Mark does too, but we'll ask him later. I don't want them to break up. I always think it's a really good team dynamic. Even the three of them, put them all on the same page and roll with it. Do it New Day style and have Lana, get in the mix for women's title matches and have Rusev and English go for tag titles. You could do something like that. I just feel like, I know they want to do the breakup story and probably turn English heel, but English isn't as over, in my opinion. I mean, he's great. I do really like him, and he's done a lot of great work since he came to SmackDown and had a complete shift with Randy Orton and Rusev and so on. But I don't think English, even if he turned heel, went against Rusev, yeah, it makes Rusev a bigger babyface with Lana. But then what? Like, I feel like English is just kind of stuck then in lower mid-card, doing nothing, fighting Ty Dillinger, unfortunately. I don't want them to break up. Maybe we see a different swerve, though. Maybe English and Rusev, kind of pair up and push Lana out. Maybe Lana turns on both of them. I don't know. But they've been doing it for a while. I like the storyline. I like that they're going and fighting against Zelina Vega and Almas. I think that's a good pairing, and we'll probably see Almas go over. I don't think this was announced yet, at least at this time when I'm recording this, guys, that if there is a match between Rusev and Cien Almas at SummerSlam. If they did, could be kickoff, it could be a pre-show match, or it could be just somewhere kind of slotted in the card for a few minutes, or maybe they go into some sort of tag mix. We got a Shinsuke Nakamura interview. It says Jeff Hardy was erased, and then R-Truth and Ty Dillinger arrive. R-Truth he's been around forever, but R-Truth has never really done anything for me. I like Ty Dillinger. I think he's really good. I liked him in NXT a lot. He's competing against Bobby Roode, and I wish they did more with him, but clearly they're not as high on Ty Dillinger. But I love the two of them as a tag team, as almost a comedy tag team. And they get in the back with Nakamura, and Truth challenges Nakamura for a match at SummerSlam for the US title. And Truth says, what did he say? He said, he'll pin Carmella to earn a title shot. And then Nakamura says something in Japanese. And then Truth is surprised or acts as if he can understand what Nakamura said. Truth wants a match with Nakamura tonight. He's like, oh, it's on. And Ty Dillinger standing in the back. He's like, you don't speak Japanese. Oh, it was really good. I really like how they went about this. I know that it's just to get Nakamura a clean, quick win over R-Truth, but I do like Ty Dillinger and R-Truth together. I think that those guys could pair up and be solid, not just a comedy tag team, but they could be a solid tag team. And give something for Ty Dillinger to do as well. I mean, the guy's really talented. R-Truth has been around forever. I think it's a good pairing, and probably just a matter of time until we see the two of them together. The next piece I want to talk about, guys, is the interview with The Miz. Miz isn't there. He's on the set for Miz and Mrs. I think this has always been a good setup, too. I mean, they're doing pretty good with this Bryan Miz storyline going into SummerSlam. Again, I wish we had more build, but we've got years of build-up and backstory. I'm concerned every single week when they're going to do something and that WWE doesn't mess it up somehow. But so far so good. They're doing a lot of promotion with Miz and Mrs. and tying it into the Bryan storyline, which is smart, and I think it's doing its job. They're keeping them apart, which is great. You're not getting them. You're getting some overlap. You're getting them, shot for shot. And we saw that tonight where Bryan was able to go in and attack Miz, but then Miz finally got the upper hand over Bryan and knocked him out by smashing the flower vase in his head. It was a good interview. We got really good heat from Miz. He got really fired up talking about Bryan, running him down again. This was really, really good. Miz does a really good job when he can get fired up like this and really showcase his emotions and his strengths. And then we got Bryan attacking Miz, like I said. It comes off like Miz is just, you cannot like this guy. I think it's really doing a good job to set up the match for SummerSlam. We'll see what happens, though, and I'm always trying to think of, like, well, where do we do next? It's hard for me to just enjoy the moment sometimes, but I wonder what they're going to do going forward. I don't know if there was any news on Bryan's contract, if they've actually settled it, if he has re-signed yet. I don't think so. But I wonder if that has anything to do with this, where not really sure what they're going to do. I mean, you can easily see that Bryan's going to get a clean win over Miz at SummerSlam, but I want to talk to Mark more about this and what he predicts, but I kind of want to see Miz go over at SummerSlam. Give him a huge win, and he could just boast about it over Bryan that he beat him at SummerSlam. Talk about how he is now definitively better than Bryan, and you can have that hero's journey story of Bryan trying to get his win over Miz, and Miz can duck him for a while and get cheap wins and so forth, and they could probably build that, again, maybe Survivor Series match or Rumble, and then Mania when Bryan finally gets the big win over Miz. We'll see, but I love the story. I love the two guys doing it. I love that they're talking about their history. I love when Miz gets the time to be able to showcase what he can do, how good he is on the mic. It's just good stuff. Then we got the Nakamura R-Truth title match, non-title match for the U.S. Championship. He wanted the title match, and he clearly didn't get it. It was okay. It was very, very quick. It was 3 minutes. Kinshasa finished it off against R-Truth by Nakamura. It was fine. Truth put up a little bit more of a fight throughout this 3-minute endeavor, but he just dominated. Nakamura dominated the whole thing and got the win. Then we move on to Bludgeon Brothers versus Jimmy. Bludgeons run wild. They toss them around. What was it? Jimmy, Johnny, and Joey? Rowan follows them on the floor. They destroy these guys. There's nothing to it. It was like a minute long. I like the Bludgeon Brothers. I don't like the Hammers. Maybe I don't like the Bludgeon Brothers, but they're just a dominant, like one-dimensional tag team. There's no depth. That's what I feel like with the Authors of Pain as well, is that there isn't enough depth there and character depth. They just come in and they run over tag teams and then they're done and they move on. And there's good value in that, to have those big, scary, dominant teams, but they're too cartoony as well with their gimmick. And there's just nothing more to them other than they're just a dominant big tag team. I think that the Bar is a big dominant tag team, and they were for like a year on Raw. I think that's the better style of tag team that's like a dominant one. I don't know. Bludgeon Brothers just don't really do it for me, which is unfortunate because the guys are really, especially Harper's really, really talented. Then, guys, we get to our main event. And I was surprised, I was happily surprised, actually, that we got the Tag Team Tournament Finals as your main event. You got the Bar versus the New Day. So you had Kofi and Big E with Woods at ringside. And the winner is going to face the Bludgeon Brothers at SummerSlam. So throughout the whole match, really, really good, long. They gave them a lot of time. This was 20 plus minutes until we got the pinfall at the end. But man, this was huge. Like, I just kept watching. I was like, there's another commercial break, and there's another commercial break. And I had it all recorded ahead of time, so I was fast forwarding a little bit because I wanted to kind of get to the finish. But really good back and forth. I love when Kofi does the big drops, the trust falls on the outside. Kofi and Big E, they're just fantastic. I want to see these guys get the tag titles. I want to know where they're going to go with this at the end of the match. But good to see Cesaro and Sheamus back as the Bar, as a dominant tag team. They were off for a while for what seemed to be no reason other than they didn't have a spot for them. But good seeing that these guys go at it. They have good chemistry. I like seeing the back and forth between all of them. But towards the end of the match, Kofi is taken out. Cesaro gets the swing, sharpshooter on Big E. Big E's fighting it out. Cesaro pulls him off back into the ring. Cesaro sits back on the hold. Sheamus is cutting off Kofi. But Kofi then hits a DDT on the floor, which looked really good. And then Big E powers out, looks for the tag. Cesaro comes back with a crossface. Big E's too powerful and overcomes it. He gets a tag in, and they hit the midnight hour for the win. And the New Day is going off to SummerSlam to fight the Bludgeon Brothers. Really great match. Again, it's like 20 plus minutes. I thought they did a fantastic job. The best thing on the show. And they really, really worked hard for the whole match, and they especially they cling to it, stretch to make it really get you engaged and really hopeful to see where they're going to go. It seemed, kind of obvious. I don't think you would want Bludgeon Brothers versus the Bar to heel tag teams fighting it out at SummerSlam. I don't think that would go over very well. I mean, people would cheer for the Bar for sure, but it made sense. You want the New Day to go over, and hopefully they're going to win the titles back. I think if they get their titles, are they 5-time champs? That'd be fun. They can pull a Booker T reference and bring Booker T back into the back room. And they have Kofi interview him as well. So great match, guys. I think it was great to see that they did the tag titles, the tournament, the finals, as their main event instead of like a kickoff or anything like that, because they've built the tournament up. You didn't need AJ and Joe going in for the main event. There's no match there. I'm glad they didn't do just some standard tag match where it's AJ and somebody else versus Joe and somebody else. I think it was great to have the tag tournaments. It puts more spotlight on it. It builds it up as an important thing, an important part of SummerSlam, that they matter. That's what I always like about SmackDown, is that it is a tighter show. It's obviously 2 hours versus the long 3 hours of Raw. But I always feel like SmackDown is a tighter, more well-rounded show with a little bit more clear direction and more wrestling. This week wasn't as much like that. They were trying to advance a lot more storyline overall, though I thought the show was pretty good. Again, it's more of just that kind of midpoint where they're just trying to build to the final go home next week and then right into SummerSlam. So it felt a little bit like a placeholder, like we kind of did all this last week. But you advanced some storylines when you got Becky and Charlotte. New Day winning is great. You got The Miz backstage and Bryan, that attack. So we're advancing everything, and Randy Orton's heel promo was great too. So we're seeing a lot of good stuff. To me, it continues to beat Raw for the most part. I know Raw is just a different beast altogether, but I thought it was a better show. And I'm looking forward to a lot of these matches, more so than that on next week. Mark and I will be going through our WWE SummerSlam preview show. Hope you guys will tune in. Remember, check us out on Twitter at the Mark and Matt Show to give us all of your comments, questions. We can throw them in on the show with you. Check us out on YouTube as well, and iTunes podcast services around the world. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll be back next week. Bye.